Welcome back to Total Shock Fiction. I'm your host, Mr. Shock, aka N Panda Cole, the Doctor of Shocks, and this is the Shock Factory, most shocking place on earth. Um, Basically, as far as the show goes, here on Shock Factory, I cover pop culture, not really news, more so as just developments in the zeitgeist as far as where things are headed, what it's looking like out here, the overall lack of creativity in mainstream cinema, but also my own publishing house and the books that I am producing and releasing. We talk about Bad Times Video Rental Store, which is the fictional video store where all of my movies and shows, which are produced in the form of literary prose, in the form of my books, which I call VHS tapes. Um, they are broadcast from Planet Shock and released on videotape at Bad Times Video Rental Store, which you have access to by way of Amazon and most major online retailers. I am Mr. Shock. I host Total Shock Fiction, and our show here is Shock Factory. If this is the first time, feel free to head over to our Substack, mrshock.substack.com, where I have articles, essays, short stories, all types of free content that you can read over there, deep catalog of just everything Total Shock and the Shock verse. I've been on there for over a year, and already have hundreds of all of that stuff that I just mentioned. So I do have a new book out right now. The new book is called Moreau's Island, and it is a direct remake of the Island of Dr. Moreau. It draws inspiration from the original novel, and it draws inspiration from both of the movie adaptations, the one from the 60s and the one from the 90s. So in my version, my character, Raph Mythos, who is a gumshoe journalist, shows up at Moreau Island Resort, which is basically a new resort on a remote island. It's basically like trending. People are, going there, taking selfies by the pool. Like people are just going there. It's like a hot vacation spot, but weird stuff is happening. People are disappearing, and there's some strange instances. So Raph Mythos, being the weird hunter he is, goes to take a look around and investigate and find out the bizarre mystery behind Moreau Island Resort, which leads to the discovery of the true nature of Moreau's Island. So this is my own remake of the Island of Dr. Moreau. If you're a fan of either of the movies, the book, or getting a new spin on like classic literature, sci-fi horror, my version is kind of trashy. Honestly, it's like cozy vacation noir with sleaze and some anime fight escalations more towards like the later half of the book as things kind of escalate to the final boss battle. Um, but that just came out like a few days ago, so you can go get that on Amazon. It's available on Amazon and most other major online retailers. My most recent books you can find on BAM Books. They're on a bunch of different online bookseller sites and all that kind of stuff. Moreau's Island is the third book of my Big Ten release rollout that I'm doing right now, which is 10 books that I have coming out, one book a month for the foreseeable future. So you can catch up on those. My books are mostly all standalones. There, you can just pick up and read on their own. You don't necessarily need to read anything else from any of my other books. Even if it's a part two of like a series like the Black Fantasy Saga, you can still pick up book two and read it on its own. Like these are videotapes. You don't always have to have seen the first one. I seen Evil Dead 2 before I seen the first Evil Dead. So you don't always have to read book one. Like my books aren't these huge fantasy series where you got to read book 1 through 10 to know what's going on. Like you just pick up any one of my books, and my books are not all the same genre. Some books are like hood horror, another one might be smut mance fantasy, another one might be extreme horror. Like just kind of depends on which book it is. But I definitely encourage people to just go take a stroll through Bad Times Video Rental Store, aka my Amazon catalog, and pick out a few titles. Check out a few books. I mean, the ebooks are pretty cheap. Just get an ebook for like $8, and take a little stroll through there and see how you're feeling about it. As far as pop culture media goes, I've pretty much covered all of the announcements for like Crystal Lake shows on the way. The teaser came out and they announced the new Elm Street movie. As far as horror news goes, I finally tried to watch the He-Man movie last night on Amazon Prime. Sucks. It sucks. So when it first started, it was 70 to 85% CGI. The green screen wasn't that good. I could literally see they were just standing in front of a green screen. The action figure aspect of literally just action figures on screen shooting each other and fighting, that part activated my kid brain enough so that at first I was still paying attention. I didn't like the cringe of like He-Man having to work at corporate and him getting put in the office and the boss is like, you have to pick between your destiny or working here. It's just so on the nose. It's like, could you guys make it any more on the nose than this? You know what I'm saying? And then like literally he just finds the sword because some weird guy who of course the weapon finder is just like a fat comic book nerd guy who done crawled out of his mom's basement. Like that's how they view fans of collectibles and otakus and comic books. Like, oh, you're just some fat loser in your mom's basement. Like, that's kind of how they presented it. And then like he just takes the sword and immediately the monster shows up, which the monster looked cool even though it was straight CGI. I did like the gorilla monster. But it did look really CGI, like really fake. And then it's like the girl shows up and she just takes him back and she's like, you were right, you have the sword, we're getting in the ship, we're going back. It's like he didn't even have to earn leaving the regular world to get to the He-Man universe. It's just like, yep, you were right. It's like there was no stakes. So I just turned it off at that point because it just the way they're making modern movies, they're just not grounded at all. Like I was just watching a Todd McFarlane interview he just did at Comic Con, and he was talking about how, as an adult fan of comic books and cartoons and this kind of shit, the older you get, you just want darker shit or more mature shit, not shit made for kids. So the issue with comic book media, pop culture media, and movies in general is they're trying to make everything for 14 and under and then four quadrants. And it's like we're all supposed to watch some shit they made for 12-year-olds. Like Philip K. Dick talked about this. I was just reading some Philip K. Dick articles. And when Blade Runner was in development, he had a big beef with the producers of that movie. And he was beefing with Hollywood because they wanted him to rewrite do sheep dream of electric androids or do androids dream of electric sheep and do like basically a watered down version for 12-year-old kids that they could mass produce as a novelization to the Blade Runner movie, which estimated would have made him like 400K, and he wouldn't do it. He straight up said, fuck that. I'm not finna water down my shit and make this shitty version of my book for 12-year-olds so they can mass produce it. He said, like, I'd rather only make 7,000 off this. I don't give a fuck. And then he didn't even do the novelization. He wrote a totally different book. And then before he died, they had changed it to where he said like he felt like the movie was more true to his book, but then they changed it back, I think, when the final version came out, because he said they took my book and basically turned it into a guy fights androids, which is what Blade Runner is as far as I know. I've never watched the whole thing because honestly, the opening I just get bored by it. So I feel like it can't be true to Philip K. Dick's book. I haven't read the book yet, but I love Scanner Darkly, and the Scanner Darkly movie was very much made true to the essence of the book. I just watched the making of on that actually. And yeah, so it's like these modern movies are just, it's like they make everything for fucking kids. They just make everything so it's like it's just so whack. You know what I'm saying? Like they just make everything for four quadrants. And it's like when you make something trying to make it for everyone, you're making it for nobody because it's impossible to make something a 7-year-old's gonna like, an old lady's gonna like, and I'm gonna like it. And a girl in her early 20s is gonna like it. Like you're not gonna make a movie that all four of us like unless it's something extremely iconic or something that has already a cultural imprint in it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just not gonna happen the way they're making these movies. Like they're just making them. They're so bland. They're just bland. They're whack. They don't really speak to anything. And like Todd McFarlane was saying, like you should start these stories rooted in a reality, rooted in like the drama of like real life mundane things that we can connect to, and then build the fantasy into that. They just start with the CGI fest fantasy and then try to inject real world shit into it from there. And it's like that just it doesn't work, you know? That doesn't work, and it just comes across as soulless Hollywood cash grabs on IP. And also, like with the He-Man thing, it's like they can't make that kind of movie without going, look how stupid this is, look how dumb it is. They have to shit on you for having grown up with that. Like as a kid who grew up on action figures, like that movie, like that opening, it was basically like a repeat of the shit people tell you. You live in a fantasy land, you're a fucking loser, get with reality, go be a fucking shitheel at some company and get paid a 9 to 5 job that's never gonna do shit for you in life and work until you're dead. That's the American dream. That's what America expects. Don't accomplish your dreams. Be a fucking shit swallower for some dickhead who makes more money than you, who works for a company who doesn't give a fuck about any of you, and make them money up to the top and just be a slave and die with nothing. And nobody remembers you. That's the American dream. And that's what He-Man presented in the first like 30 minutes. It didn't feel like, oh, look, he gets to be He-Man. It was basically like, this is all fucking stupid. It's a fantasy. And we don't even take it serious, even though we're depicting it. And, you know, that shit, I find it tragic more than anything else because so many people are really in that kind of a mindset. It really just it shows you why so many people are unhappy with their lives, why people are bed rotting, why people are doom scrolling, why people don't believe in themselves, why people don't achieve things. Like people just want to sit back and do the same shit. And I refuse to do the same shit, you know? Like I've been quote unquote living in a fantasy land for a long fucking time, but we'll see who gets the last laugh, right? Because a lot of people, everyone thought was full of shit till they got rich. Then all of a sudden they were right, you know? So you just gotta kind of take it with a grain of salt as you're moving through life, creating shit, and it being perceived as having absolutely zero value because it didn't make any money yet. Till it does. And I think the biggest thing is once you do achieve any kind of success is to not be too bitter about when everyone said you were full shit. Because you don't want to become disconnected from the version of yourself who had nothing, and the whole thing you were trying to build, it wasn't really working and people didn't get it. And then once it works, then you're going to want to be like, haha, I told you, motherfucker. So, but you don't really want to be like that. Because then you're going to be removed from the essence of yourself that created the version that started it all off. So that's really what's in my creator cereal this morning as I'm watching like Todd McFarlane talking about the shit he's doing with Spawn and, you know, just the way it goes, creating, you know, being a creator. But honestly, I think creation is its own reward because money couldn't change the way I feel about a finished book. You know, like even if I got 1 million likes on something, I wouldn't change anything. Oh, 1 million fucking schmucks liked my shit. Who gives a fuck? You know, if somebody sent me an email and said, hey, I really resonated with this, or this was really cool, or something like that, that would matter. But just the overall viral sensation. And this is another thing too. When it comes to this whole shiny dream of, well, I want to go to Hollywood and make a big movie and be famous and all this shit. There's an illusion to this. When you see something become as reproducible as, say, a Rick and Morty, Like they grinded to make that happen for themselves and then sold it away, and it got packaged up. And it's like the way that shit gets packaged up to be reproduced to become these big hits, like it's a little bit different now because they have the internet. So you can start something and then a company will buy you out. But like Philip K. Dick was talking about with them turning his book "Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep" into Blade Runner. Like they're sitting there telling him he shouldn't say Android. He's doing interviews and they're like, "Don't say Android. We're not using the word Android in connection with this movie." And it's a movie about fucking androids adapted from a book with Android in the title. I don't know if that's because they didn't want people to think it was Star Wars or what it was, but it's not called Attack of the Sex Robots. It's called Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. So the author being criticized and told he can't say android in an interview about a book he wrote that's about fucking androids. Meanwhile, they're wanting him to adapt it into a shitty, watered down version for 12-year-olds to do some marketing thing that's going to make $1 million. These are the concessions a lot of these famous motherfuckers are making to get shit to certain levels. And as a creator, what you have to ask yourself is, are you willing to do that? Or would you rather have something smaller that you control that's authentic to you? Because I would rather have a small fucking following of some shit my entire fucking life than sell my shit and be as big as Rick and Morty and it look like something that's unrecognizable from what I created. And that's the fucking 100% truth, nigga. I don't give a fuck about fame. I don't give a fuck about money. If I gave a fuck about money and fame, I would have chased money and fame. I would fucking have money and fame. It's not that hard to get money and fame if you're willing to bend over a desk or crawl under a desk or kneel on your fucking knees. It's pretty easy to get far if you're willing to do that. But I'm not. Are you shocked yet? That was a shock test. Are you shocked yet? So that's why I study shockology, because shocking people is a currency. It's the current of being able to see currency. Shocking people is worth more than any dollar amount could ever reflect. Because if you shock someone, you made them see something they can't unsee, hear something they can't unhear, feel something they can't unfeel. You've created a change. Modern cinema is not shocking. It's the opposite. It's just a dull noise in the background going. It's just a hum. Just a consistent no shock. I expected that. I expected that. Exactly what I expected. Nothing shocks anymore. And as a doctor of shock in a world without shock, what can I do but provide shock therapy? What else can I do but shock you? There's nothing else I can do other than provide you with shock. I mean, that's what I do. I put this Aloha shirt on and this beanie to shock you. To shock you. This is for the summertime and this is for when it's cold. I'm wearing them at the same time. It doesn't make much sense. Well, hopefully it's shocking to you. That's how it goes. Being a shockologist. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can really comment on right now as far as updates or anything like that. I've mostly been watching a bunch of old ass movies. I have might have some new music. No, I'm just kidding. Might have some new music on the way. So definitely subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. You can go check out the Nothing More Shocking mixtape, which is in my playlist. If you go through my playlist is its own library of archive stuff. So I have music playlists, I have movie playlists, I have anime playlists, I have historical footage playlists. I have playlists for many different topics and investigations I've done and research I've done. It's basically a huge archive of stuff that I've compiled into playlists. But Nothing More Shocking is my mixtape. It's a slasher rap mixtape, all horror themed songs. So you can check that out. I have some other stuff I've been recording, newer shit, playing around with like doing some more shit. Again, I've been dropping a book every month all year. In April, I dropped 4. But I've been dropping 1 book a month all year, and I'm rolling out the Big 10 right now. I've released 3 of those, so there's 7 more of the Big 10. And then I have a few other books that are already done too. They'll be coming out after those. I do have some new stuff out. If you can find my new shit, because I'm writing new shit right now that's coming out at the same time as the Big 10 that's already written. So if you can find my new shit, I have new shit out there. And you can find it, especially if you're reading my articles on Substack. If you're fucking with the Substack and you're clicking on the links, I'll give you a hint. Click on those links and you might get shocked. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. You might get shocked if you click a link. You might get shocked and you might find the new shit. So as always, stay shocked.